Okay, good evening, everyone. I think I'm live. Can somebody type something in chat so that I can see? I'm watching my translation on YouTube, but I cannot see anything. So if I'm live, please let me know. Hello? Maybe in the chat? Okay. Okay, much better. So we can see. So hello everyone, my name is Artem. I'm a teacher for Accent Language School, and today we're going to be talking about effective ways to increase your vocabulary while on quarantine. And actually, it's not only quarantine, everything that I'm going to be talking about you can use in real life, and mainly we're going to cover three topics. So three methods that I usually prefer when I study and when I teach my students. It's learning words in the context, association method, and also something that I call stress training. And so we will probably wait a few seconds for everybody to join, or no? When right now I see 3 people in the chat. I hope everyone is doing fine on this Tuesday evening. We're going to have some casual conversation. Hope nobody's affected by this coronavirus situation. So I think I'll just jump right into it, and people will be joining us as we start the conversation, okay? So a lot of the people, especially a lot of students that are only beginning to study English, they have a lot of problems, gaining the vocabulary. Learning new words is difficult. Sometimes it's boring, and often it's ineffective. So what to do so that it doesn't happen to you? Let's talk a little bit about that. I will start with my first method that I perfectly used in my teaching throughout the years, and it's called, learning in the context. It's a really good method. And basically what you need to do is that every time you see a word that you don't know, and you want to learn, not only you write down and translate the word that you have, but you also write down the context that it was in. For example, if you're watching a TV show and you see some word that you don't know, don't just write it down and write down the translation, write down the whole phrase. So that way your brain will try to remember the moment that you saw in the TV show at the time, and it's just going to be much more effective when you use all the areas of the brain, visionary, and something that is doing the learning process. So basically it's taking in all the area of the brains responsible for learning. Okay, maybe if you remember back in the university, in the school days, if before examination you had to learn maybe 10 or 20 new words, usually you go in, you pass the exam, and after 2 weeks you forget everything. So with this learning in the context, usually that doesn't happen because you have a much better association. And something that I recommend to my students, if you're using some maybe application or translator online, try to use the translator that gives you the context, okay? So, for example, if I give you 20 words to learn by tomorrow, you will need a context. And if you don't have one, you will have to come up with one, or you will have to, find it online. And I personally recommend this site called Reverso Context. You can find a lot of others, but this is the one that I use. It's free. It's pretty convenient. And for example, a lot of people, they're using Google Translate, Yandex Translate, and I just think that it's not as effective as the one that I'm recommending because it doesn't give you the context, okay? So that was learning in the context. If you maybe like to learn new words by listening to songs, that is also perfectly fine. You can do that. And it's the first method. Now, if you have good imagination, maybe the next one is going to be a little bit more interesting for you. It's called association method. So with association method, you just need to create a tie between the word and something that you already know, and maybe something bright in your memory. So, for example, I will write something in YouTube chat. Give me a second. Maybe some of you know this word afford. And now, if you don't know this word, the translation or the meaning of this word, it's something like to have money to buy something. So afford, to have money to buy something. Hi there. Hello, Dana. So afford. Now, how do I memorize this word? How do I learn this word if I see it for the first time? I create an association. So let me write down a sentence down below. I cannot afford. Now, if you know some English, at least elementary level, we can all translate what this phrase means. And yeah, it's just, I don't have money to buy Ford. So what's the method? What is the idea? So the word afford, it's very similar to the brand of the car. Okay? So now it should be much easier for you to remember this word because you create an association in your brain that, okay, what do I not have the money to buy? I do not have money to buy a Ford, a car. Okay, so you're creating this association in your brain. It works in a very interesting way. So if your imagination is good, that's probably a method for you. Now, you ask me, can I create association for like every word? Well, yeah, if you're good at it and if you practice, you can do that. It's just, yeah, you need a lot of practice to do that. Now, if this method doesn't work for you, you can try to use the one that we talked about before. It's learning things in the context. Now, the next one, it's probably not something that you can use right now with, this whole quarantine situation going on, but I call it the stress training. So it's something that we used to do back in the United States when I was, studying there. And for example, people used to come to us and they wanted to improve their English really fast. And usually it's Russian people, with elementary level of English. They don't know a lot of words. So what we do, we give them a task in Russian language, written in Russian language, and maybe we drive them to the middle, for example, of New York City. We leave them there alone with the Russian task that they need to complete, okay? So, and what happens is that the person that doesn't know the language, he has, the Russian task that he needs to do, and he tries to maybe ask people, strangers in the street. The person is very nervous, doesn't know what to do, and it's a very stressful situation. So what we do, we usually come back for that scared person in maybe like 6 or 7 minutes, sometimes like half an hour if we really want to torture the guy. And we just like take him to the class and we give him the same, or maybe her, the same task but written in English. Okay? So the idea is that that person had a very emotional experience, and now that he sees the translation of the things that he at the time needed to maybe ask the question the correct way, he memorizes it instantly. I have a really good example from my life. It's when one time I was explaining to African American how to make Russian borscht, and at the time I didn't know, for example, how to say in English Russian word svekla. And it was really difficult for me, very funny. Like I was speaking with this person, like we were laughing all the time. And the idea is I came back home, I Googled the translations of all the vegetables that I didn't know, and I memorized everything instantly. So why that happened is I had a really bright, vivid, emotional experience. So if you can do that in your learning process, it would be fantastic for learning new words. So how should you do that, for example, in real life? Now, there are a lot of English courses online, and students that have never done that before, they come in, usually they're really nervous. So if you go to a meeting like that, bring in a list of words that you want to learn, okay? So, and if you try to use them, it will be really difficult for you, a very nervous situation. And you will just find that when you come back home, you look at the same list, it will be much easier for you to remember all of the words that you struggled with during the class that you went to, okay? So it's an interesting method. Give it a try, especially if you go to like a foreign country. I recommend it to quite a few people, and they have very positive results. Very interesting method, and definitely something outside of the box, okay? Now, a lot of my students, they struggle with, managing big vocabulary lists. So I don't know what you use when you write down English words, but most people, they just use like a copybook. They write it down with their pens and create lists. And it's not really easy to manage. So for example, if you have like 200 words in the list, that you need to learn, or maybe 300, 400, it's really difficult to navigate. And what I found is that after a while, people start adding the words that they already had in the notepad, okay? So they basically add the same word like maybe 2 times, 3 times, and it's just very inconvenient. So I usually recommend, if you can, try to have like a vocabulary list online. So there are a lot of free applications that you can use nowadays, and just like use the ones that show you, if you type in some word, whether or not you already had this word added in the past. So make sure that you do not add the same words, and basically like use online dictionary. It's just like easier to navigate and manage when it comes to like big vocabulary lists. And trust me, if you want to learn English, at a decent level, you're gonna need a lot of like lists like that, okay? And while we are on the same topic, a lot of people ask, well, how many words do I actually need to, speak English at a decent level? And the answer to that question is probably going to be disappointing for some of the people, because like I heard different numbers from like different people. Most people say, oh, 2,000 words, it's all you need to learn a language. It's all you need to communicate on a basic level. But in my experience, especially if you start watching TV shows or maybe movies, it is going to be a lot more than that. So I would say maybe 5, 6, or even 7,000 words is something that you need to understand TV shows or movies at a normal level. You're still going to find some words that you don't know. It's okay. But basically, yeah, 5 or 6,000. Now, I did not do the math, but can somebody in chat maybe tell me how many days do I need? Like, for example, if I know 2,000 English words right now, and I want to learn 5,000 more, how many days do I need if I learn 10 words a day? I think you're probably going to find that more than a year, more than 2 years, then learning 10 words every day, it can be really challenging. It can be really challenging. So just like hop on that bandwagon of learning words today, and try to learn maybe 5, 6 a day. I find it's like perfect balance. A lot of people, they try to like learn a lot of words at the same time, and maybe once a week, twice a week. In my experience, it's much better if you learn words consistently every day, and not many of them. So try to repeat them maybe with a 48-hour break, or actually less than that. If you can do that maybe while on quarantine, it should be very easy for you. In the morning, you wake up, you look at the list that you have, and try to memorize the words. Look at the context. It's very important that you have the context for the words. Forget about it. 2 hours, do something, do your work, walk your dog. It doesn't matter. So look at the list again and do the same in the evening. Do the same before you go to bed. Okay? So that's basically like how you can do that in a very effective way. And that's pretty much it. That covers it. So one more time. In the beginning, I talked about learning things in the context. It's super easy. Just write down the context that the word that you want to learn came in with. If you're watching a movie, write down the sentence that this word was in. If you are watching, maybe like if you're listening to a song, try to find the lyrics. It's like the words that are used in the song, and write them down. And yeah, if it's something that comes without context, maybe your teacher gives you this word, or you're using a translator, try to make that context, okay? Second method that we talked about, it's association method. It's just like very funny phrases that you can use. For example, I used one in the chat. The word is afford. It means to have money to buy something. And yeah, I cannot afford. So I may have missed something. How many times do we have to use one word in context to remember it? So we're like slowly starting to answer questions. It's really good, Dana. And in my experience, you just need to repeat it consistently, at least for 48 hours. So if you repeat it like 5, 6, 7 times in the span of 48 hours, that's really good. But it's better if you do that maybe, for a week or so. And yeah, that way it goes to your long-term memory. It doesn't just stick to your short-term memory. Okay, yeah, we actually moved to answering questions gradually, so that's good. What TV series, it's in English TV series, okay? So, or TV shows, it's the same thing. What TV series are good for pre-intermediate, intermediate level? Cannot find any easy ones. So, I can recommend a really good TV show for intermediate level. If you are looking for like clear American pronunciation, the TV show is called Lost. I will write it down in the YouTube chat. It's about, maybe you like watched it back in the days on Russian TV. It's about people crashing on an island and trying to survive. It's a really good American TV show with pretty clear pronunciation, really good modern language, and not a lot of cursing, which is very rare for American TV shows. So try that one. If your level is lower than intermediate, well, there are like special videos on YouTube that you can find. Maybe something for like learning purposes, or maybe you heard about this stupid TV show called Extra. It's I usually recommend it for people with like elementary level of English. And yeah, just like try to watch that one. But I have to warn you, it's very boring. It's very stupid. So should I watch American or British TV shows? In my experience, of course, everything in modern English is American version of English language. So yeah, and just like try to watch as many American things. Like one thing that I recommend to like intermediate students, those late night TV shows like Jimmy Fallon, something like that. It could be like really interesting, simple language, simple American English, and yeah, just try to watch more American stuff. And you will not find a lot of British TV shows nowadays. Like everything is an American, Hollywood. So everything is American. How can we pick new vocabulary from books? I mean, how many per page? So I usually do not deal in terms of how many per page. For example, if you have a lot of words piled up, like you have a list that you need to learn, just like set a bar. For example, I learn 7 words a day. Even if you have like 50, after reading a page, just do 7 at a time, okay? Do not overload yourself. Because if you try to learn a lot at the same time, I think you will be disappointed in the long term. Because maybe, oh, I'm very good, I learned 50 words, it's fantastic, but in the future, it will be very difficult for you to continue doing the same thing. What do you think is the biggest TV show fail in the cinematic industry? Like it was so good and then it disappointed you. Okay, an interesting question. It's well, actually, I watched like a TV show recently. I unfortunately do not remember what it's called. If I did, I would have told you, but I'm not sure. So something really bad. I'm really bad with like remembering what the TV show is called. So I'm not sure. Yeah, it was something about like detective story, but I completely forgot. So not gonna answer that one, unfortunately. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, like just send it to the chat. If no, it's fine. I think, yeah, how long I need to learn English? How long would it take me to learn English? That would be a better way to ask that question, probably. So it's a question that, we teachers get a lot. Well, actually, we hate this question because there is no answer for this question. Like, it depends on many things. It depends on how dedicated you are to pick up this language. It depends on, how much time you have, how much effort you put into it. And it depends, for example, do you have a teacher? Do you not have a teacher? Like, all of those things are very important. But in my experience, if you want to speak at a decent level, you're looking at something like maybe 1-2 years of like a regular English practice. Maybe you heard, learn English in 2 weeks, learn English in a month, learn English in 3 months. Usually it's just, something that's called clickbait on the internet. It's just like a very effective phrase, for you to start doing that. But no, it takes a lot more than that. And one of the reasons why it takes so long, it's actually how many words you need. Like we talked about it a few minutes ago, right? So if you want to speak at a decent level, you're going to need a big vocabulary. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. So a year, 2 of regular practice. But in my experience, something that I tell my students, oh, it's so difficult, it's so boring, 2 years of English. It's actually super easy once you reach intermediate level. I usually tell my students, before intermediate, it's boring. It's maybe a struggle. If you do that alone, if you do that with a teacher, that might be a little bit better. But after intermediate level, when you start watching TV shows and maybe movies by yourself, English becomes not, like a struggle. It actually becomes really fun. So once you reach intermediate level, and you can do that probably in less than a year, English can be a really, really fun activity. If you, like watching TV shows, for example, like watching some interesting videos on YouTube, and yeah, it can be really fun without, the struggle. Would you rather be in a real-life version of Walking Dead or a real-life version of Game of Thrones? Yeah, I'll probably have to pick, Walking Dead, because all the zombies in that TV shows are stupid. It's very easy to, live in a world like that. Game of Thrones is actually, it would be quite difficult to survive. Okay, what is the most surprising thing you as a Russian person when you visited the United States? For me, probably how open everyone is. And it's actually like something that we call cultural shock. When you first visit a country that you've never been to, you notice like little things that usually never happen in the country that you're from. And one thing that I noticed, if maybe you walk down New York subway, everybody's smiling, everybody's having a good time, or at least they look like they're having a good time. And it's just completely different from Moscow subway. When you go down Moscow subway, everybody looks like they want to die. Like everyone is serious, and it's little things that I noticed. How polite everyone is, especially if we talk about people from the South. Like just like the culture of small talk. It's a big conversation, a very interesting conversation to have with Russian people. But small talk, it's a big part of American cultural tradition, and everybody is talking, discussing like stupid things with strangers. For Russians, it's like a very weird topic, but yeah, all of those things you notice as you live and work in the United States. Something that I noticed. There are many controversial topics in the US. What do you think about Me Too? Ooh, and I'm not sure that, people, I'm not sure if people know what Me Too is, like Russian audience. So basically, Me Too is a big movement that started after, a few sexual harassment cases in the United States, in Hollywood. And it is a big topic to talk about, but basically I think that it's good. The women started to speak out against, sexual harassment in the United States, but there are negative aspects to it that I don't think that I can cover in our today's conversation because it's a really, really big topic. But it is an interesting one. So, for example, I would love to discuss Me Too topic as like maybe a new lesson or something like that, because I think it's an interesting topic. It would definitely be interesting for Russian people, for Russian like maybe students to talk about that. The vocabulary that you use when you talk about things like that, when you talk about social movements, maybe it's like too difficult, but yeah, it could be interesting. Like I will dodge the question. I will dodge the question for now. It's too complex to answer right now. So, but yeah, I would love to discuss something like that in a longer format. Yeah, guys, and if there are any more questions, I would gladly answer that. I'm just like coming back mentally to like this question: what shocked me in the United States? A lot of things shocked me actually when I lived there. For example, again, it's small things. I noticed that the portions when you go to like a cafe or restaurant or like a fast food joint, they're just much bigger than in any country that I've been to. So if you order like a salad in the restaurant, it's like a huge pile of salad, and it's if you order a drink or a soda, it's a huge soda, and it's just like in the United States they have like this. In Russia we have like small, medium, and large, and the United States they have like extra large, extra extra large, and yeah, it's just like they eat a lot of food. I noticed that. What country you want to visit in next year? Well, this coronavirus situation is really difficult right now, so I'm not sure how long it's gonna take to for things to settle down. But I would definitely like to visit Spain, maybe some Asian countries, and yeah, something like that. Is fast food more tasty there? They say it is. It depends on the place. I was actually very disappointed with American McDonald's because we Russians, I think pretty much everyone have been to a Russian McDonald's, and we know that it's like this huge American brand, and I was not expecting it to be as bad as it was in the United States. I actually think the Russian McDonald's is much better than American one. It's very strange for me. I don't know why that is, but food in American McDonald's I didn't like at all. It was really bad, really low quality. But there, at the same time, there are really good fast food joints. For example, there's this legendary network of cafes, fast food joint in New York. It's called Shake Shack. If you ever go to New York, give it a try. Really good fast food. I remember me and my friend, every time we would get like a paycheck in New York, the first thing that we would do, we would go to that, fast food joint and spend like 30 or maybe even like $35 on expensive fast food. But it was really good. It was worth it. It was worth it. Hey guys, let's maybe, if there are some questions, do like 2 more minutes and then we'll wrap it up. What TV show has the best soundtracks in your opinion? I really, really, really like the TV show called Westworld, and I really like the soundtrack in that TV show. So if you have not if you actively watch TV shows in English, first of all, I recommend you to watch Westworld, and yeah, just like listen to the soundtrack. It's really good. And maybe in the future, like today we talked about effective ways to increase vocabulary, but I would actually like to talk about movies and TV shows in a more informal format in the future, because I have a lot of experience in this subject. I watch a lot of TV shows. I recommend a lot of TV shows, and there are a lot of good ones, and we could talk about it in details in the future if there's demand. Yeah, let's maybe do one more question and we will wrap it up. By the way, yeah, if sometimes I say something that you guys do not understand, maybe you can ask me in chat to repeat something or the phrase. For example, I used this phrase a few seconds ago, wrap up. It means to, try to finish something. Is there a friendship in America, or is everyone fake like they say? Again, I think it's like a very difficult and big topic to talk about, but I would say there are definitely some differences with how people form friendships and acquaintances in the United States. For example, one thing that I noticed is that Russian people, if it's like a really good friend, we could tell our good friend in Russia pretty much everything about like emotional problems that we have, about struggles that we have in life. We could tell them everything. But in the United States, even if you're really close with a person, I feel like there is this. I apologize for that. Yeah, I feel like there is this line that people try not to cross. But again, it depends on the region that we're talking about. It depends on the generation of the people that we're talking about. I feel like older generation, they try to keep a lot of things to themselves and not talk about, personal issues. But yeah, it's also a very interesting topic. Like maybe in the future, if we have like maybe online class like this dedicated to cultural differences, I could go in details about something like that. But yeah, it's just from the top of my head, it's just the way that people form friendships and how they share things. It's different. Thank you for the live. Cannot wait to see you here again. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, guys, so we'll wrap it up. Just one more time. 3 things that you can take out of this lesson are learning things in the context, association method, and something that I call stress training, but it's basically training under a lot of maybe emotional things, maybe under emotional stress. Try to do that. I recommend it. Very interesting. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you next Thursday. Have a good one. Bye bye.